Recording in progress.
Welcome in to the latest episode of the Bet and Pitch Soccer Podcast. I'm your host, Real_G Warner. Tonight, we are going through the Italian Serie A and the English Premier League midweek matchups starting on January 6th, a holiday for some. I am the Real_G Warner across all social media platforms. We're going to go through, pick a best bet from England, a best bet from Italy, and then smash them together for an ultimate best bet that will be coming out via a Reel at the Real_G Warner, a YouTube short at the Real_G Warner. And of course, if you're listening to this podcast live, I appreciate that. But if you want to listen to it or do it whenever you want on demand at the Real_G Warner across YouTube or on Apple Podcasts, it's called Betting the Pitch, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. We're going to start in England because that's where the money is. And this might be a briefer episode than normal as we only have two leagues to go through. But we do have a full slate on both. So let's get into it. As soon as I get these lines to show up, I will do that. And let's just find where they are. Okay, so we're going to start in the English Premier League, and I might have some movement to track as well. So we'll start with West Ham United hosting Nottingham Forest. And I got to say, I'm a little bit surprised to see Nottingham Forest a quarter goal favorite away from home. Yes, they've been playing a lot better since Sean Dyche came in, but I don't really trust their offense. And I think that's probably a bigger interest for me in this one is under 2.5 as opposed to just playing side, but it is correlated. And a lot of my soccer strategies, finding games where I feel like a favorite is unlikely to score goals or a single goal. I think both those are at risk here. So Nottingham Forest under 2.5 and West Ham United, the side, West Ham +1/4 at home. Both are on my list as potentials for ultimate best bets coming later in the show. We'll move next to a Wednesday matchup, the 7th of January. Not a holiday for some. Maybe it is. Crystal Palace, quarter goal underdogs right now with all the juice at home to Aston Villa. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced a little, actually even juice, -108 both ways. So only 16 cents juice, which is very, very affordable. If you do not have a Bet Online account and you're trying to bet some English Premier League, you should definitely think about signing up. Hit me up at the Real_G Warner across any social media platform, and I'd be happy to refer you, get you some extra money in your pocket or in your account balance. Crystal Palace, they're a great team at home. Don't know if their defense is going to hold up as long. I forever am worried about how thin that roster is. Oliver Glasgow, the new manager, who's been great there. I worry also for Crystal Palace fans that he's going to leave. Get a bigger job somewhere sometime soon based on what he's done there. But he's been complaining to the board, and we'll see if it actually gets delivered upon. We do have January coming up, Mark Gahey and all those questions about Liverpool. But Aston Villa come in, and they're a great defense. So to me, two teams that are both going to defend, point in the same direction. Yes, some random English Premier League matches do have goals. I'm not really sure that this is the one. So I'm interested in under for sure. And it's another one where there's a home underdog who I think can play really well, have a great crowd behind them, as does West Ham's is nowhere near the same. So I don't even want to link those two together. But on Wednesday to start at 1:30 p.m. Central Time, Crystal Palace, a quarter goal underdog, and under 2.5 are both of interest for me. We'll move next to Fulham hosting Chelsea. Fulham, a quarter goal underdog at home, all the juice on Chelsea away. Total is 2.75, and it's used very heavily to under. So Crystal Palace, well, that's just what I talked about. Chelsea went on the road to Manchester City. Now they returned to West London for what isn't really a rivalry to them, but you could certainly say that it does matter a lot to Fulham. And it should, because they haven't had a great season. Chelsea are trying to capitalize on Champions League efforts and trying to really win. I don't know if the Premier League's their goal here, but I mean, to finish in the Champions League position is certainly what they're looking for. And they've spent the money for it. They have the budget, and they have a much more talented team than Fulham. So my concern here is, how does Fulham score? That's a big concern. And also, how do they keep Chelsea off the scoreboard themselves? Those are big questions. I don't know that 2.75 is enough for me, especially when it's pointing towards 2.5. I think biggest interest for me is the Fulham quarter goal underdog at home, but it's plus odds. It should climb to a half. And I don't know if that's necessarily enough for me at the moment. Move next to Manchester City. Speaking of, they're hosting Brighton, 1.5 goal favorites at home with all the juice right now, -121 on Bet Online. Total in this one is 3.25, and it is juiced pretty heavily over right now. We've seen a little more money bet on over since I've been tracking it. Not a lot, but it's moved to penny. Brighton had scored a ton of goals to start the season, and I didn't believe it. I don't know that a lot of people did, but they certainly were getting a lot of respect in the marketplace. Manchester City have woken up from a year and a half slumber or so, and Brighton's going to try to play with them. I imagine eventually they will throw out those plans and try to defend, but how many goals have they conceded until that happens? If it's 0, then the under looks really good when you climb above 3. I don't know that I trust the Brighton defense away and big underdogs. Really, I always fear, because if they're getting blasted, their defense is going to be very, very disinterested. Move next to Bournemouth hosting Tottenham, still on Wednesday, the 7th of January. Bournemouth quarter goal favorites right now with all the juice. Tottenham for a total looking at 2 3/4, just 2 cents more to the over. So Bournemouth competitive with Arsenal last weekend, but there are some big differences between those clubs. I'm still shocked to see a Bournemouth budget favored to a Tottenham one. For that reason, I'm interested in Tottenham just because I don't know that I want to fade Bournemouth necessarily, but I do feel that we've reached a pretty peak valuation or something close to it on the Iraola's club. I think Tottenham are going to go on the road and try to defend. We've seen that from Thomas Frank forever. He didn't seem to want to change to start the season. And I don't know if you start getting criticized by the media if you start to change. It almost feels like you dig your heels in even further. I don't know if the total's big enough for me to want to play it, but it's large, 2 3/4, about what I made it, 2.7846. I would love to see this hit 3. I don't think it gets there. That's probably a buy price for me, and I might just let it go otherwise, especially on just a quick turnaround. The Tottenham are certainly more used to that, and I think that makes me probably more interested in the side than anything, in the total in that matchup. We'll move next to Everton hosting Wolves. Everton 3/4 goal favorites with a lot of juice on Wolves, surprisingly. I feel like they're getting a fair amount of respect in this matchup. Maybe it falls to half. It probably won't matter too much for me. I do like under 2 1/4, though, just all the way to over. I just don't think Everton are ever going to be a team that's going to score a lot of goals. They are a favorite. They are at home. They're more likely to entertain at home than they are away, as David Moyes loves to say. But I think Wolves, the hard part is when does Wolves give up? Because they're so far behind. There's been a lot of respect for them lately. Maybe that continues. Maybe that's deserved. I'm not sure. That's the hard part. But seeing Everton score 3 goals seems unlikely to me. Smaller favorite than I made it. So under 2 1/4 is my biggest interest in that matchup. So on Wednesday, before we get to a later window of Wednesday matches, and then one Thursday, and then we'll move to Italy. Not permanently, don't worry. Brentford, half a goal favorite at home to Sunderland right now with all the juice. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced very heavily to under. So Sunderland have been really great defensively for this entire campaign. There's a lot, I think, to be desired about their offense. And this is the big test for them, because they are going on the road to a team that plays really well at home. And can they keep Burnley from scoring? That should be the modus operandi, the goal number 1. And I think they can. But if Brentford do score, where does Sunderland tie this up? It might be one of those where I look to under 2.5 stronger, even if it falls to 2 1/4. It's very juicy at the moment. I think I still like that better than the side. I think I like both for right now, and I think it'll be coming down to me how much I believe in a Sunderland offense if we play this on Wednesday. We'll move to the later window on Wednesday as well. Burnley 3/4 goal underdogs at home to Manchester United. Right now, they total in this one is 2 3/4, and it is juiced slightly more, 2 cents more to under. So Burnley are not a team that can score goals. Manchester United, in this situation, I think with the Burnley team that's going to defend this whole match, doesn't make sense to have 3 center backs, but that's how Ruben Amorim plays, and he's never going to change despite no matter what criticism. And if you think Thomas Frank is stubborn, I think the Portuguese man is even more. I don't know that I really want much to do with Burnley because I don't think I can trust them to score goals. I do have some questions about the availability of Bruno Fernandes in this matchup. Speaking of Portuguese players or people, I think the under 2 3/4 is more interesting to me. I think Burnley's going to get relegated, but I think that was the expectation as a newly promoted anyway. So I think seeing them try to win a game 1-0 gets a former great big power, as the odds are back with the Real _ G Warner late night. But this is my 3rd podcast of the night. So if you haven't checked out the NFL podcast with Andrew Schwarzenegger, please do that. Also, the new pregame.com podcast called What I Bet is out. Hopefully hopefully that gets labeled the way I wanted it to. I think for the next matchup and the last one on Wednesday before we get to one on Thursday, that's Newcastle, 3-quarter goal favorites at home to Leeds. Total in this one is 2 3/4, and it's used pretty heavily to under. A lot of similar numbers here across really all the soccer pods I've been doing today. I don't think that Leeds are good enough for me to want to back them on the road at Newcastle. Really tough place to play. They play awesome there and are so talented, more talented than the newly promoted side. I just don't think Newcastle have been that good this year, though. And I think Champions League, when they finally get it started back again, I think they're going to suffer even more against more rested teams. That might mean we wait for a little while. I was expecting Leeds to be a 1-goal underdog until we have that. I probably skip. For the last matchup on Thursday, the big names, the big run for the Premier League title has Arsenal a 1-goal favorite at home to Liverpool. I almost didn't do it, but man, what a price. It's very juiced on the Liverpool side. If you like the +1, you probably want to grab it before it goes away. That push is important on the road at the Etihad, no, at the Emirates. That's try to figure which Middle Eastern airline is sponsoring this club in England, of course. At some point, there's a buy Liverpool signal here. I just don't think it's here. And I like unders with Arsenal every time because they suffocate their opponent. But Liverpool's defense has been so bad. They hired some really offensive fullbacks, wingbacks, and that's not worked. Man, under 2 3/4 seems interesting, but I made it. My number is above 3, so maybe there's some smart money on under right now. I probably don't want it, so I think that's probably one of those. I maybe look at Liverpool +1 and hope it goes away, so I don't have to play it on Thursday. This might be what ends up happening here. For my best bet in the English Premier League, in this English Avoca, as they would call it if it was in Germany, I'm going to go with. I do like the correlations in some of these. I'm going to believe. I mean, it sounds like a broken record. I'm going to believe the Wolves are still fighting. Let's go under 2 1/4 there. Might get 2.5 before game time kicks off on Wednesday. Now let's move to Italian Serie A. I'm going to check with those of you that are coming here. EPL, Jerry's poker vlog. EPL unders have been killing me lately. I hope we see some regression for unders. I mean, it has been, Jerry, to your point, I mean, unders in the Premier League have been like a godsend for 2 or 3 seasons. It's about time for them to have some reversion to the mean overwise, or else we were just going to ride off the sunset. I think it makes sense that it's been we've been seeing some goals, and I feel like that's because of the festive fixtures or whatever they used to call it. If it didn't land on a weekend, it seemed. But I imagine we're going to see some low-scoring games coming soon. Thanks for coming in. Really appreciate your comment. Now let's move to Italia. We'll start on Tuesday, 6th of January, live in just a few hours. Pisa, they are hosting Como. Currently, Pisa 3/4 goal underdogs with all the juice. Total in this one is 2 1/4, and she's very heavily to under. I don't know. So we've seen some movement towards the under, as we should, because Como haven't been scoring goals, and Pisa, newly promoted side, don't have a lot of goals in them either. At 2, I think I'm still somewhat interested because the push is important, but I do want to have 2 1/4 still around. So I think that's my biggest interest in this matchup on Tuesday. Let's now move to the next one. We'll go to Lecce hosting Roma, another similar price here. It is Lecce 3/4 goal underdogs, the same. Total this one's 2 1/4, juice heavily to under, like I said. So Lecce have been a side that haven't scored goals for years, but they stay in Serie A from, I don't know, gum and spit. Who knows? Roma's offense has not been delivering. I expect that to turn, but their defense has been really good, and that's why they've been up near the top of the league. I think we see Lecce trying to dictate the tempo here and try to kill this game from the second it kicks off or even before. And Gaspar coming back from the Africa Cup of Nations is important for their defense. So under 2 1/4 is interesting to me there. Move next to Sassuolo hosting Juventus. Sassuolo, 3/4 goal underdog. What a surprise. They are going to have a little bit bigger total in this one, though. That is 2.5, and it's just very heavily to under. So maybe some value there, you could argue, but not that much. I think the Sassuolo side is interesting to me here because I just don't really trust what I've seen from Juventus at all, really, is kind of how I felt. I would love to get a full goal of insurance, but I'm not sure we will. Move now to Wednesday with Napoli hosting Verona. Currently, Napoli 1.25 goal favorites with all the juice, almost just 2 cents on the Verona side. So that's likely moving to 1.5. Total in this one's 2.5, and it's used very heavily to under. Verona, we can't trust them to score goals. We can't trust them to win matches. So hard to want to back them. Yes, they could lose by 1 or draw, but that seems fairly unlikely on the road at Napoli. I do think we see a defensive effort, though. So 2.5 looks interesting to me on that Wednesday, January 7th card. Move next to Bologna hosting Atalanta. Big battle of teams fighting for their lives, or really just for Champions League, I think. Bologna, an underdog. Atalanta, all the juice right now at Pick'em. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's used very heavily to under. Atalanta were an under team to start the season because they hired the wrong manager. I don't know necessarily if that's something that Palladino can really fix, but he's been around for a while. My computer doesn't like me trying to get stuff off the buttons, apparently. I think the Bologna side is the only one I want there, though, here. I really have been impressed by them for years, love backing them, and pick them at home is too cheap, I think. Move next to Torino hosting Udinese. And that is Wednesdays. I guess there's three nightcaps on Wednesday. Torino quarter goal favorite at home to Udinese with almost all the juice right now on the road team. Total in this one is 2.25, and that is juiced even heavier. So not a lot of goals expected in this matchup, and that certainly describes a Torino matchup. Udinese, I feel like, has been a little bit hard for me to get my finger on the pulse for a little while, but I do like them as an underdog on the road at Torino. I don't trust Torino to do much offensively, and they are a favorite, so that kind of computes or all works together in the same direction of fading the overpriced favorite that can't score goals, and the under usually pairs pretty well with that. Move next to Lazio and Fiorentina. Currently, Lazio quarter goal favorite at home. Torino with all the juice right now. It does feel a little bit respectful, I think, at this point, considering how poorly they started the Serie A season and real relegation comments were being made. Total in this one's 2.25, just all the way under. Yeah, Serie A, more low-scoring games expected. I don't really want to do much with Fiorentina. I feel like this total is too low for these two teams that I feel like we could see a shootout here, which would then make longtime Patreon subscriber, patreon.com/real_G Warner, Joe Dollar. He loves overs. He knows I'm not that type of guy. It's amazing he's still around for so long. This could be an over for you, Joe. Next, we'll move to Parma hosting Inter Milan. Currently, Parma, a 1.25 goal underdog. All the juice on Inter. Total in this one is 2.75, and it's used very heavily to over. Inter unders, I love those in Champions League because they actually think they need to defend. Harder to do in Serie A because they try to kill everybody. I think at this point, I can't help but look away from a tough Inter victory here, but maybe not by enough points. It does make me feel like I need to get a 3 on the total, though, to play it. I don't know that I will. Though the juice certainly is pointing there, so we might. Total's bigger than I made it, so I'll lean that way and wait for a 3 to pop up. Last 2 matches on Thursday. Get an ultimate best bet, get you out of here, and I'll maybe go to bed at a decent hour. Just kidding. I'm way past my bedtime already. Trying new year, new me. Inshallah. Cremonese, quarter goal favorites to Cagliari right now. All the juice almost on Cagliari, 17 of 20 cents. Total in this one's 2.25, and it is juiced all the way to under. Cremonese newly promoted. They've been really competitive. We'll see how long that continues, but Cremonese are not going to score a lot. Cagliari are going to defend a lot. Maybe they think they can win this matchup and go a little bit more aggressive, but usually at home they defend the big clubs, big boys really well, and I think we see a defensive setup from Cagliari. So under and the underdog are interesting to me on that Thursday one. Now to the nightcap on Thursday to close out the week. AC Milan with Cristiano Pulisic. I don't know if you can see it. I spun around, so probably bad audio right there. But Captain America, he's been playing really well, and hoping he stays healthy because we need him in the World Cup to have any chance. Currently, Milan, a 1.25 goal favorite at home. Genoa, 1.25 goal underdog away. Total in this one is 2.25. What a surprise. But it's used really heavily to over. So maybe we see some goals here. Genoa has certainly not been the automatic unders they were under Patrick Vieira. Sad to see him go, but that sacking was deserved. Daniele De Rossi has been good. At least he's shown some offense. That's something. price is bigger than I made it. That's expensive, more than the +1 to get to 1.25. If it settles at 1, I'm not sure. I'm not that interested. And the total is really low in this one. So I don't know if there's much for me to do on this Thursday nightcap in the Italian Serie A. So for my best bet, which is coming, and then we'll smash that together with the English Premier League one. We'll decide which one we're going to grade this podcast on. We are 15-9 and 63% so far year to date. Want to plug the NFL podcast, the George Schnicker, that is on the Betting the Pitch podcast network. You can find that Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, at The Real _ G Warner on YouTube, and of course the Reel and Shorts coming at The Real G Warner on Instagram and on YouTube. The What I Bet new episode, first episode tonight, inaugural. That is on the Pregame Now, pregame.com/ or twitter.com/pregame now, or on the Straight Out Vegas AM feed. Go check those out, subscribe, do all sort of things. We'll be mixing together a bunch of sports every night about what I'm potentially betting the next day, with the best bet coming end of show. For the rest of these soccer pods, we'll have them, might do something for AFCON next round, or certainly for this weekend. But anyway, that's the plan for right now. We'll see. Maybe you can get another thing out there. I don't know if there's enough Spanish Supercopa or whatever in Riyadh that's going to be that interesting for anybody. So might just wait on that one. But I think it's time for the ultimate best bet. So let's get into it. Make sure I don't miss any comments on here. Nothing. But thanks for hanging around. Lot more people here active. A lot more people watching the reels, liking everything, and that's been really supportive. Thank you so much from all of us at the Betting Pitch Podcast Network, George Schnicker, and myself, The Real _ G Warner, Big East Ben, of course, and all those that have been on it before. A Brooks Bets, all of y'all. Thank you so much for sticking around. For the ultimate best bet in this episode, from England, we went with Wolverhampton Wanderers visiting Everton under 2.25 goals. From Italy's Serie A, my biggest interest is Bologna at Pick'em. But I'm going to go with that Wolverhampton Wanderers under 2.25 goals, the best bet on this show. We'll see you all on the next episode. Get some sleep. Talk to you all very, very soon.
Recording stopped.